I'm Parker,
And I'm Tim.
and this is the Rage Podcast. Where today we're going to talk a little bit about what happens after the resurrection, what all happens in that time frame.
Yeah, and there's a certain season that comes after Easter, and I guess in order to talk about that right off the bat here, we're going next level with Parker.
The 40 days leading up to Easter is, as we all know, is called Lent. However, there is a period of time of 40 days after Easter, which is called the Easter season, which is over when we hit Pentecost or the Ascension Day, when Jesus was ascended into heaven.
All right, thanks for that, Parker. And what we want to use our podcast today to talk about is, okay, so where did that start? So we got the 40 days of Easter until the Ascension. You know, what are some of the things that happened? And we just want, Parker and I picked a couple of resurrection appearances that we would like to share with you today. We're going to start with Matthew
28:2. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and from his clothing white as snow. And for fear for him, the guards trembled and became like dead men.
So basically, the guys got so scared they passed out. I mean, that's what I get from that.
Yeah.
And you got to realize who these guys were. I mean, they were there to guard the tomb. They were hardened Roman soldiers. Seen battles and wars.
So what I'm picturing is they're at the tomb, and this I would assume, and you can only tell from the movies, and I don't know if the Bible goes into any description, but the stone's huge.
Yes.
From what I see.
Yes.
So this big, massive stone. So it says, an earthquake came, and then the stone was rolled away, and an angel was sitting upon it.
Yeah, and one of the things that we always picture, and again, every time you see this depicted, there's this big round stone, and if you're going to move it, you just kind of roll it to the side. That's not exactly how that works.
This would be several tons.
Yes.
More,
right.
Or maybe.
And not only that, it wouldn't necessarily have been round. It was actually a big stone that was built into a frame. And in order to get into the tomb, what you do is you'd have to push the stone, and it would lean, and then you slide in the side. That's how you got in. So for the stone to be laying off to the side means the frame has been broken. So this stone moved with some force.
So this is like the soldiers are looking at this is the holding cell of a dead criminal.
Correct.
Okay, so the stone's rolled away. This is the first time we're seeing into the tomb. This is this is the first appearance of his body is not here.
Right.
But
in order to see that, the stone has to be moved.
The stone had to be rolled. That's why the stone. So I guess it's not necessarily that Jesus' appearance is in here.
Right.
It's the fact that this is the first time we realize Jesus is no longer here.
Well, what you have to imagine is you're standing in your front yard. Okay, you're standing in your front yard. You're playing around, and all of a sudden, your garage door just rips off the frame and flies into the neighbor's yard.
And your car is not there.
And your car is not there. That's sort of what happened here, is that it's not like the stone did what it was supposed to do, or we didn't get locked right and it slid out. That's not what happened. It would be like ripping the door off the hinges and flying into your neighbor's yard. That's what's going on here. And again, I don't know the soldiers would have been so scared had the stone leaned over. But if they're standing there and the stone kind of flies over their head or something, yeah. And in fact, remember, we're not talking a stone. We're talking something the size of a car. That would have been pretty intimidating.
Very alarming.
Yeah.
Because they've been guarding this day and night.
Yeah.
They've been here. You eventually become accustomed to probably your environment.
Right.
You see people. You eventually see nothing's really going on. Because I
Right.
assumed for the first 2 days nothing's been going on.
Yeah, nothing's been going on. So early in the early morning hours, they're all there sound asleep, and all of a sudden there's a sound that you can imagine how loud that would be. I mean, you've all seen movies where cars are getting thrown around. Well, that's exactly what this would have been. And so these soldiers were like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Dude, wasn't there a dead guy in here?"
Yeah. You see the.
Remember that dead guy that was supposed to nothing happened and he's not here?
What are you more alarmed by, the angel or the dead body not being there?
The angel, the flying stone, or the dead body being gone? I mean, pick the thing to be intimidated by.
So they had a very eventful day that day.
Yeah, at least a very
eventful morning.
Yeah. And you've got to remember, not only are they scared because there's large objects flying around, which is intimidating, and dead people are gone, that's intimidating, and glowing people, that's intimidating, but also now they have to go back to their commander and say, remember that dead body we were supposed to watch? Well, you're not going to believe what happened.
Yeah.
And that's if you know anything about Romans, they were brutal, and that news would not have been received well.
They
So, just there's a lot of things to be afraid of at this moment.
yeah. So are we gonna go to the next one?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So what we want to do now is we want to compare this experience. You know, where the angel basically scared the soldiers and told them to get lost, but he spoke very nicely to Mary and them. So now we're going to see another resurrection appearance.
This is from John 20:26. 8 days later, his disciples were in sight again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands." And he put out your hand and place it on my side. And do not disbelieve, but believe. Thomas answered him, "My Lord, my God." Jesus said to him, Have you believed because you have seen me? Believe. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet still believe.
Okay, so here we got a very different resurrection appearance. I believe, I can't remember if it's this one, but were they in a locked room in this?
Yes, this is, yeah.
Okay,
it's
they're in a locked room.
Later
So again, first he's in a locked grave and that didn't work. Now people are in a locked room and that didn't work. So they're there and all of a sudden Jesus shows up, which, I mean, if you're in a place and you're locked in and suddenly you're like, when did this guy get here? Yeah. I mean,
because again, the disciples are hiding.
Yeah.
Because
so they don't want nobody to find them because crazy stuff's happening, right?
Because they are obviously, they're disciples and they're fairly well known.
Yeah. And some people have already seen Jesus at this point.
So the fact, and I guess I always like it because it's Thomas.
Yeah.
And everyone knows doubting Thomas.
Yeah, from this story.
And so then Jesus is like, just rubs it in even more. And I guess it's kind of comical, kind of not.
Yeah.
But it's I think the whole kind of resurrection story is a little bit funny to look at now. There's again, the whole, it's like, I'm back, it's quite funny.
Yeah, well, it's the ultimate kind of, oh, you guys thought you had me, didn't you? Yeah. And so Thomas is there. Thomas says, hey, I ain't believing none of y'all till I see this myself. And Jesus is like, hey, Thomas, check this out. I mean, that's...
But again, I think it's Thomas almost might have had it worse than the guards, only for the fact that Jesus, he just deemed him Lord of Lords, God, my God.
Yeah.
Then was like, hey, looky here, look at my sides, look at my wounds, look at, and look at me, like.
Yeah, Thomas is like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, and you see, so Thomas gets called out by Jesus, pretty much is how it is.
Yeah. I mean, at least the soldiers literally had something to be afraid of.
Yeah, I mean...
Where basically Peter's like, yeah, you remember that time when you didn't believe... I mean, the rest of his life, the guy's now known as Doubting Thomas to this day.
I mean, it's just so bizarre how it all worked out. If you were Thomas, imagine just like, oh my.
Yeah, I'm sure you want to say, I did other stuff too.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
There was a little bit more than that,
Yeah.
But I'm sure his face was very red.
Yeah, and so he basically gets called out in front of everybody. But you want to talk about getting called out? Let's go to our next story. Here's somebody who really gets called out. And this was a little long to read, but you all know the story that Jesus said to Peter. Peter said, "You're the Messiah," and Jesus is like, "Well, 3 times you're going to say you don't know who I am." And Peter's like, "Well, I ain't going to do that." Well, guess what? Jesus was right.
So just
shocker.
One chapter later, Jesus then goes with Peter. Now, Peter and Jesus are alone in this time period. Thomas was with the whole group of disciples, and Jesus calls him out like this. But Peter's alone with Jesus, and Jesus pretty much asked him 3 times, "Do you love me?" And then Peter then responds, "Yes, Lord," yada, yada, yada. It goes on. And it happens 3 times. It's this conversation.
And it even says that his feelings, I believe, were hurt.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He's like offended, and Jesus was like, "Hey, I can ask 3 times because you done screwed up 3 times. Remember that?" And
I find it to be so because again, Peter denied 3 times, and Jesus knew. I mean, Jesus obviously knew everything that was going to happen, but because Peter didn't believe it. What did he say? What did he say when Jesus said, "You will deny me 3 times by morning" or something?
Yeah, you gotta be crazy. There's no way I would do that.
Yeah, so Peter says, "You're crazy. There's no way I would possibly do that." But then we come back to this verse, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, Peter ultimately gets called out, and it's so fascinating that Peter ends up being the one called the rock on which the church will be built, because he screwed up a lot. I know if you read on in the book of Acts, which we'll get there, but he gets his act together. But well, he sure has a struggle there for a while.
It is that probably turned Peter around more than we think.
I'm sure
this,
it did.
This,
I'm sure it did.
this setting.
Yeah,
It's not.
Yeah, because as Parker said, some of the resurrection appearances are humorous if you go back and look at them, and we're not making fun of them, but we're just embracing what's going on.
Because we have the whole story, they didn't have the whole story.
But this is not one of them. This is a pretty serious moment, and it's interesting if Jesus wanted to make the point of the 3 times of denial, he could have said, do you believe in me 3 times, or do you think I'm the Messiah 3 times? No, the word he used was love, and it's just interesting that, and there's a whole word study you could do with the words love that Jesus used here, but bottom line is that's the concept he went for. Love is what sets us apart, and how important that is. So it's interesting that's how he challenges Peter, and then Peter goes on to obviously become the patriarch of the church.
It's very. I guess that was a good point. How it doesn't say Jesus. It's doesn't say Peter, do you accept me? Right. Peter, do you this? It's Peter.
He doesn't even say Peter. He doesn't even say Peter, are you sorry about what you did? He doesn't even say that.
He doesn't need to. But I mean, it's just so
Yeah, it's a very
so interesting. It's a very emotional story. Is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can imagine Peter, who probably. I mean, I can't even imagine how bad he must have felt. Again, it's a failure. I mean, we've all been there, but he.
I find it interesting because we have a relationship with God that is 100% spiritual. These men had a relationship with God when he was on earth.
Yeah, it was present. Yeah,
it was constantly in the moment.
Right, just like the two of us sitting here. Yeah.
You're facing God, like it's as if he was right here
and in the flesh, right in his face,
talking to me about all the wrong things I've done wrong.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah.
Which obviously, I mean, we don't see it, but it's kind of happening every day. It's like that, but. That's just so wow when you really sit down and look at those when Jesus appeared to many people. I guess Tim, could you give a brief description about the experience when he went to Mary? Because Mary wasn't his appearance to Mary was not like these other 3 that we've read.
Yeah, right. Mary's is a little different. Where Mary didn't recognize him at all. She already knew that the tomb was open. And she's like, and it says right in the Gospels that she thought he was the gardener. She thought he was just a worker or a guy who was there. However, the moment she recognizes him and when she heard his voice, and when she heard the word, literally heard the word, she was turned around. It's interesting that she was searching. She wanted to find Jesus. Where in the other stories, I mean, the soldiers, Jesus found them.
Yeah.
Thomas, Jesus literally found them, and then Peter. Jesus found him, where Mary was actually out searching, saying, I'm going to go look.
And Mary wasn't... Jesus didn't treat Mary in the same... I guess treat might be a little bit of a harsh word, but the same as these other as the other stories.
She wouldn't have had the risk of the disciples because they wouldn't have thought a woman was worth messing with. Yeah. So she was actually a little safer. I'm not trying to downplay what she did. But,
yes.
But what her contribution was vitally important. But so Jesus spoke a little differently to her to say, don't cling on to me, because obviously that's what she would have wanted to do. But it was the idea that Jesus, she was out looking for Jesus, so Jesus showed up.
The appearance, I guess I've never truly sat down and dove into the appearances after the resurrection, like I have other passages. But
yeah, that we're taking a look at.
That is something that now I'm getting really interested now in seeing all the because I never have, and I think that'd be a good way to spend these next 40 days.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll do a few more podcasts on that one. With some of the other appearances.
Looking at some of the other appearances.
Yeah, and maybe we transition into Acts chapter 2 for Pentecost. So.
Yeah.
We may come back and revisit this topic a little bit and talk about some of the resurrection appearances because, honestly, everything Jesus did was important, so I'm not trying to downplay anything, but if you want to talk about as far as impactful, the resurrection appearances are almost more impactful because they're still...
it's the finished work, I would say, almost.
It's the completed task, yes.
Now, I have a quick question. It's kind of funny. It's kind of a little bit off topic.
Okay.
Did Jesus teleport to these places?
Well, I think that in the resurrected form, I guess in the way you're talking about, like Star Trek, it's like, Holy Spirit, beam me up. No, that's not how it is. But Jesus does, he does do supernatural things. He does walk into a locked room. Yes, he did come back from the dead. But he also did things like he ate fish.
Yeah.
So he ate, and he went to his friends. There's different things. He also went to people we don't know who they are. In the Emmaus Road. Yeah. Cleopas and his unnamed companion. We have no idea who those two guys are. They never show up before or after. So there's a wide variety of people he went to. So Jesus vanished from their sight.
Oh yeah.
from the Emmaus Road. So he broke the bread. He was good.
And he was, yeah. So I mean,
So I don't know.
guess it's a little.
I guess
It's just interesting.
Yeah, I think the time space constraints once you're resurrected is kind of irrelevant.
Alright,
So,
so-
that's going to be my answer for what it's worth. So.
Just a interesting question, but yeah.
But we may come back and revisit some of these other resurrection appearances because we don't spend enough time with them, really. And there's like part.
And
of
you don't hear about them. Like
Right.
I'm trying to think of any time in church I've heard of the resurrection stories.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's
You
something
don't-
we can spend
yeah.
a little time with. So, anyways, if we've whet your appetite for this a little bit, we'd love to have you join us. So come back next week and, I don't know, we'll pick out a couple other of the resurrection appearances and go from there. So,
See you next week.
you guys have a great week.